morning, everybody. My name is Sean Michel. I'm a University of Hawaii student, and I'm from Saipan. I study coral reefs and how land-based pollution interacts with them. I'm going to begin today by telling a quick story. I'll ask you a question. Answer it in your mind. Why are green sea turtles green? Not green sea turtles or other. Why are they called green sea turtles? Okay. My 4th grade son, while living in Hawaii a couple of years ago, asked me that same question. Came home from school, Daddy, why are green sea turtles green? And being this awesome PhD student in marine biology, I thought I knew the answer. But surprisingly, I didn't. So, and I attribute that to, maybe me not studying well in college, or maybe by the types of things I was learning while growing up in school. So I grew up in Saipan, and instead of learning about, coral reefs and watersheds and all that stuff, I was learning about, deciduous forests, seasons, polar bears, right? So there is sort of a disconnect. And while my son, in Hawaii is learning about tropical marine ecology, tropical marine biology, for me, growing up in Saipan, I was learning about, temperate landscape ecology. I was learning about polar bears. And I learned something new that day. My son came home. And to make a short story short, long story short, green fat, that's the answer. Green sea turtles have green fat. So hope some of you learned something new today. And it just brings it back to this main concept of what we learn in schools. And in the islands, to meet U.S. standards, teachers teach U.S. standard materials. And this is something that needs to change, not only in our business, maybe in others, where, if we want to spark the next, generation of environmental leaders, or if we want to spark environmental awareness within our immediate community, we need to address these issues. And this is where Center for Ocean Solutions comes in. And, this is part of their overarching goals. So, COS is already thinking about things like this. So, we have that first step already. We're thinking along the same lines. Just a quick outline of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to read out our vision to you, let you know what we see, talk about the challenges that we face and how to address these challenges. And at the end, we're going to bring it back to COS and how they can help us. And then hopefully you guys can remember some of the things. And I'll reiterate that at the end. So this is our vision as a group for our project. That we envision Pacific Island communities that know their past, recognize their present, and hold it to us to sustain their coral reefs into the future. Now I'll pass it along to my colleague Meg. Margaret is going to talk about problems.
I'm Margaret Sands. I'm a policy student here at the at Monterey Institute for International Studies. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about how we reached our vision. So we all know that coral reefs are in trouble. I don't have to convince you of that because that's why we're all here, that and the aquarium. But coral reefs are under attack from multiple threats, and people have been trying to address these threats for a long time, luckily. NGOs and other organizations have swooped into communities with coral reefs and have done all sorts of wonderful programs, a lot of which did not involve the communities that were already there and the people who were living off these reefs. It became sort of an issue of colonial conservation. This led to an epidemic of distrustful stakeholders, and those stakeholders weren't involved in the process, didn't feel the need to participate in the management policies, and their ecological knowledge that they've been accruing for centuries was lost. Luckily, we have moved on from that, and now these organizations are very aware of how important local communities are. That was one of the first things that y'all said to us on day one. This was talking about how important it is to engage local communities, to find local leaders, and to really value the information that these local communities have to share. So rare conservation is one of our favorite examples of this. They not only engage the communities, they pick local leaders and put them through a training program so that they can go back and lead these pride campaigns. which really build pride in the community about how many wonderful resources they have, how strong their coral reefs are, etc. So a lot of times now NGOs work with communities to identify threats, and they find solutions that were already there. But this is the current best thinking, and the main thrust of that term means that it's current, there's always room for improvement, and there are still gaps that exist. So traditional ecological knowledge is still dying out because a lot of times these projects are very short term. So people come in, work with the communities, get the knowledge they're looking for that specific project, and then move on to other things. And there's no really solid documentation of the overall knowledge that a community has to offer of coral reefs and other resources. And now in the Pacific, there's all these wonderful organizations trying to save the beautiful coral reefs, but there's a few more conservation roles than there are people to fill them. One of the problems with this is that a lot of these roles are seeking people who have bachelor's degrees or graduate degrees, and I saw one statistic that said fewer than 15% of Pacific Islanders have bachelor's degrees. So higher education is a little too rare to make it an effective conservation tool. And this goes all the way back to early education because there's not an ocean passion being cultivated in schools despite the location of these communities. So there's a lack of place-based curricula. This is an example of a worksheet that you might see in a Pacific Island school, one that Sean might have done himself, showing the seasons and the deciduous forests. And this is what a deciduous tree might look like in the Pacific Islands, because here, our trees lose their leaves, but in case you don't know a lot about palm trees, these would be dead. So, we took a cue from Margaret J. Wheatley, who said, "There is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about." And so we have come up with 3 objectives to help try and foster that caring in communities. We hope to build a pool of local ocean leadership in coral reef communities, incorporate place-based curricula into all levels of education, and capture local knowledge to unite community members around a common vision for their reefs based on the present and the past. And we hope to do this by implementing a program through the local schools of data collection, collecting stories, social science data, and just recollections from people who have been living on these reefs for generations and generations, under the supervision of a Coast Fellow. And Rachel is going to explain a little bit more about what that will look like.
All right, thanks. I'm Rachel Zerker. I'm a grad student at UCSC. And I'm going to take the next few minutes to go into details about what our program looks like. So we designed the Pacific Island Fellowship Program to kind of address the 3 objectives that you just saw, but also to move toward the vision that Sean showed us a few minutes ago. We don't want to reinvent the wheel here. We know Center for Ocean Solutions has expertise in leadership training and expertise in graduate education. So we kind of think of this program as a hybrid of 2 existing programs that you guys know a lot about. The First Nations Fellowship Program and the Early Career Fellows Program that some of you guys know are part of. We expect that the first round of 2-year fellowships, 5 fellows would be selected from U.S. affiliated states where Center for Ocean Solutions has existing partnerships and relationships upon which to build. We want to keep it relatively inclusive as far as the requirements for fellows to enter into this program. We're looking for people seeking a degree or moving towards a degree in natural resources management. Someone looking to get an associate's degree, maybe a 2-year degree, a bachelor's degree, a higher degree, or somebody who has equivalent experience in ocean policy or ocean resources, whether that be professional experience or personal experience. So what does this actually look like? What's the nitty-gritty of this program? We hope that you're not too disappointed that we haven't actually figured out all the details of this. We haven't actually kind of fostered all of the relationships that need to be in place for this program to take place. So, in the first year, this is going to be an organizational year. Notably, relationships with educational institutions and trainers would be fostered and built, and then a steering committee would be convened. We envision this steering community to be current Pacific Island ocean leaders, people like Neil Hanna that we listened to the other day, people like Bob Richmond, people like Willie Koska, who can kind of serve as directors of the program and also serve as mentors for fellows who are in the program. As we move into year 2, which is confusing because this is actually year 1 for the fellows, want to focus this year on training and education. Training in leadership, training in ocean resources management, training in environmental education. We would like them to attend the 2015 Ocean Leadership Practicum, assuming this is still taking place. And we don't necessarily expect the training only to be here in Monterey or up in Palo Alto. We want this to be all over the Pacific. We want to find Pacific bright spots and take these fellows to those bright spots so you can learn about what's going on there, but also start building this regional network of fellows and of people working in the field. As we kind of finalize that first year and move into the second year, the work plan that was created during these trainings and during these kind of collaborative efforts will go into on-the-ground implementation. There's a couple things that'll be going on, but it'll look kind of the same in each community where these fellows are working. There'll be a focus on finding stories, documenting traditional ecological knowledge, taking that knowledge base to kind of rally a community around that, and then taking the process of getting information and analyzing information and documenting it, and taking it into the schools, and letting the students be part of that process with the fellows. So I'm going to tell you something next the Center for Ocean Solutions already knows. I'm not going to teach you anything new. When you fund a fellow or fund a leadership program, you're not only funding that person. The change isn't going to end with that person. Sure, we're creating an ocean leader that can then take a position in a local agency or in a local scientific institution. But we're also creating an environment for a snowball effect. We've got students who had assignments given to them by their teachers or their fellows to go home and interview their parents. So they're excited about this. They're excited about that gaining of knowledge. And then we've got parents, we've got family members who are starting to rally around this growing base of knowledge they see in the community. We've got teachers who worked with a fellow who feel like they have the tools to then incorporate all this locally relevant knowledge into their lessons in the next year. We start to see bright spots popping out of this knowledge, and we've got kind of material upon which a community can build a vision for a sustainable coral reef future. There we go. And finally, we don't want to just take that knowledge and set it down in a book somewhere. We've got rigorously collected ecological knowledge that the fellow did, put into some sort of usable format, and then give to institutions like Center for Ocean Solutions, University of Guam, University of Hawaii, University of the South Pacific. But then we've also got all these creative ways that hopefully we can connect with the communities and really leave this knowledge in a place where it's accessible to everybody and at every different level. And the sky's the limit here. We've got stories, we've got dances, we've got art expos, we've got videos, we've got interactive computer programs that can be used in schools. So we really think this is an exciting project. I hope I can kind of convey how excited the group is about this. And Sean's going to bring it home for us and hopefully get you guys on board as well.
Okay, so now the real question. Why would Center for Ocean Solutions be interested? Well, we feel that it meets all these criteria, and it did meet that overarching goal in the very beginning. Our project will be compatible. It's compatible with the climate change objectives 2 and 3, which address that social aspect. It's exceptional. The impacts extend beyond the time of the fellowship, as Rachel showed with that network map. The fellow would be there in the beginning, but then those in that network, people will remain, and those partnerships and that network will still be there. It's feasible. Human and financial resources, it's replicable, could be done elsewhere at the same time. You can have one fellow in Palau, one fellow in Siena Mountain, one fellow in Fiji. And it's flexible. It's a multi-year project with that snowball effect again. Credible. You can get a lot of good social data, build a lot of partnerships, and this creates a fellow with desirable qualities to stay within their area and grow and move forward. And so some things I'd like you to remember before we take any questions at the end. Okay. Polar bears belong in the North Pole, not in our lesson plans on the islands. Think about the green fat. Right? And we learn from our past with this, kind of knowledge transfer from like that social aspect of the social survey questions that we're going to bring to the schools and have them talk to their parents. You know, we can incorporate that with some of the new stuff that fellows are learning. So we're taking academic new knowledge and traditional old knowledge and combining it so we can have the best of both. And I want to end on a bright spot. We want to build a future ocean leaders, right? So right now there's a few of us in here, Pacific Island future ocean leaders. And right now we're the exception. You know, we want to be the norm. We wish this whole room was full of us, but we got to build on what we know. And this is regional action in progress. This was at the last summer at the International Coral Reef Symposium in Cairns. And you know, we're a small community, and we work well together with Jack's Medicine, as he likes to call it. Any questions? What questions do you have at this point?